What's going on, everyone? We've got this amazing Star Wars Xbox shell. Let's cut some holes in it. Okay, got all the main sections cut out that we were going to do. Still got to clean up some of the edges there. Got this one cut, this one, and I mentioned not doing this one yet. We want to get that radiator installed because it's going to partially cover that window. I also have an idea for having the tubes kind of pop back out here to go to the reservoir instead of trying to do those returns internally. That's going to make it way easier to just unplug those and drain it and take it apart instead of having to reach in and unplug something while the top shell is still on. I mentioned this is not the right shell. This is for an E model, but it is already painted blue, so we can throw this on here. Just kind of get an idea. And I honestly might not put windows here. I don't think that's going to work because obviously some of these touch the metal frame, and we would have to smooth out a lot of these little strength braces, I guess, even though we already cut some out. But this isn't going to affect airflow or anything like that. I mean, maybe a tiny bit, some of these vents here, but the way our cooling system will be set up, it's just not going to affect it. Take this one, this junk board, we're going to use this to set the hard drive thing in place, set our block there, and then we can use those as reference points to mount our fan and radiator, because if we have it mounted too far any direction, then it's going to affect, our hard drive situation. Now we can take a look at our reservoir. We've got this tube reservoir here. Should be long enough. Okay, now we're actually probably going to use this one. And I had this idea. I've actually been thinking about this a little bit. It's going to be changed up. So the thing with having the reservoir on the top, it makes it really top heavy, especially if we use that like silver nickel. I mean, that thing probably weighs as much as 2 DVD drives. And with our window situation here, this will be lined up, about right there. And this basically fits right inside this window, whether it's sideways or upright, and I actually think upright is going to work out way better for connecting up the loop. Now, no, it's not going to sit on top. This will be at least halfway inset, so it should still be pretty much even with the radiator. Now, no, we're not going to have the fan on the outside. I just have it set there for now. But this will be in. This bottom port is going to go directly into our pump. We are going to use the Phobia DC-12. Definitely a big upgrade from the DCLT. Not that there's anything wrong with the last water-cooled R2D2 build, but there's just things I think I could definitely improve on. This idea kind of taken from the Halo 5 Xbox, where we had the same thing, kind of half inset, and this type of reservoir just glows so nicely. Obviously, it's completely see-through with the UV LEDs on the inside. That should look really nice. This will obviously be our fill port, and then our return up top. And part of moving some things around, I want those 2 connection points for the radiator. When we set that piece on top, it's extremely difficult to plug in tubing that way with having to reach in through the front here and get it clipped in and make sure it's in all the way. So to solve that, we'll have the exit still sticking out the front like we did last time. So when everything's set on top, this is just sticking up top. We can put the rest of the shell on, plug that tube in. The second connection point, I want to bring to this opening right here. So basically picture a 90 right here and a tube going across the front and then back in. Why would we want to move that to where it's kind of sticking out the front? Because that's the other connection point. We can literally have the faceplate, everything in, connect that last tube, connect this one, and there's no having to reach on the inside. That's going to help a lot as well with disassembly, things like that. It will still have to be drained, because obviously we're going to cut a hole here, so this sets right over this reservoir, just like we did, or are doing on the Beta NXC water-cooled build. And then once that's over top, then you just put this 90-degree fitting on, connected over here. Now, I thought about trying to squeeze this in this window. That would prove to be quite difficult. and this has to connect to this, which is going to bring that connection point back to the inside and in a much more difficult spot. So instead, we'll utilize the top here. So we have, where is it? Inlet, outlet on the sides, and an extra on the bottom. You could basically have it this way, have a plug fitting that has an LED hole. So that'll be on the inside, it'll be hidden, but this will be illuminated. And we'll still have to cut some of this out here. It'll still come out of the angled part of our metal frame, that little mesh part right here. We'll have that tube go straight up, 90. This will already be attached here, where we can, still take this piece on and off around it. Connect that in, and then from here, 90 up, over, back into the reservoir. So we're going to go here, straight to the pump. Pump's already facing that way. It'll take care of the block and radiator. And whether it comes out of the radiator or block last, that's the one that's going to then come out here, connect, go into there. And somewhere along the lines, we'll have a splice to put a plug fitting for a temperature display, and that's what we're going to put right inside that window there. And I think I'm going to mount a switch to the frame here that'll line up with the hole on that clear bezel piece for the back. We'll just make sure that hole on the clear piece is cleaned up a little bit more. There's a little spot. It's not a perfect circle, but we'll make sure it is. And we'll have the switch mounted here. That way this can just be clipped on. And that switch, we'll probably have it on the temperature display in that window. Those, we just want to prolong the inevitable death of the temperature displays. And if they're on a switch, you turn it on, check your temperature, turn it back off. It's going to last a long time. But when they're on constantly all the time, they don't have the longest lifespan. Furthermore, just like the Kylo Ren build, I'm going to use the bottom shell of the DVD drive to still place where it would go, and then we can mount the pump and reservoir to that surface. We may have to cut a hole so that the pump is kind of inset in that piece a little bit. I don't know if it'll quite fit on the inside, even if we get rid of those braces across the top, right where the pump is. I think if it sits on that surface, it'll still be a little bit too high, so we'll have to test that out. Let's get this thing mounted first, and the fan. It's going to be easier to go from the underside instead of trying to line it up on the top, because we don't want to get rid of our mounting points. Here, here, here. All four are right here. Those are kind of the main ones, and then you only have one up top. Furthermore, we don't want to go too far to the right and get rid of our mounting points for the faceplate. And as a matter of fact, the first time we did this, I think I actually had a couple spacers on this fan, because I think you could technically fit a 25mm fan, even though the block is going to be right below it, but it has to be totally flush with the faceplate, and I think it's still kind of rubbed on that. So that's why we went with a thinner fan, but there's still plenty of room when you go with the thinner fan, and I had spacers on it so it wasn't flush with this. It was kind of sticking up almost just like that. So there was still a gap for these prongs to go and clip onto these things here. Because if this is flush right there, even though we're not covering them, the pegs go obviously have to go past this to clip on. So yeah, that's pretty much exactly where we need it. Get it in between all four of these mounting points. Get it right about here. We'll get it lined up. I'm going to mark those four spots, drill the holes. Now I'm going to try this, which I don't know if I've ever actually done this when mounting a fan, but I'm going to hot glue this in place. I'm going to set this where I want it, put a couple of tabs, hot glue in like the corners so that this can't move. Then we just go in, use the fan as our template, and drill the four holes. If you don't do that, no matter how much you hold it in place, even if you try to do a pilot hole, it's going to want to start to shift a tiny bit as you drill at least the first hole. And normally, I mean, if something moves, a millimeter in one direction, it's not that big of a deal. This one has to be pretty precise. If it moves at all, it's going to be, one, noticeable that it's kind of on an angle, and two, if it moves, then it's all of a sudden interfering with something we don't want it to. 4 holes drilled there, right through the fan mounts. That's where the radiator will go to. I was a little worried I didn't quite position it right, but it looks like our only issue is that center right here. There's these fins that go around where the case screw goes in, and there's some pretty big ones on this side that are just rubbing on the fan. Won't quite let it sit down all the way, so we'll just have to trim at least the top of those fins on that one side just a little bit, and then we're good to go. So let's go ahead and set the radiator here. Hopefully I got some screws. This isn't the normal M4 or M5 screws. It's kind of an odd size. It's harder for me to find, at least at Ace. But we'll throw that on, and then we need to put some tape here. Normally I'd just kind of mark it with, a marker or something because it's going to get sanded and repainted. But we're not doing that here, so we want to put some masking tape across this area so we can mark off where these little openings need to sit. You can see all the holes are lined up. We've got these openings. Not the prettiest circles. Circles are kind of my kryptonite, but we're going to put the screws back in this so that the radiator's in place and go ahead and mark out the last window we need to cut for the reservoir. Here we go, nice and square. Get a better idea of our concept. Obviously this won't go all the way down. It'll be on that bottom DVD drive thing, so it'll be lifted up a bit. Yeah, it'll stick up a little bit higher than the radiator, but that's then going to line up right with our pump, and both those things can be on the DVD drive bottom piece. We did this similar thing, like I said, on the Halo 5 Xbox with the same reservoir kind of half sunken in, so that one port is sticking out the top and the other one is through the bottom, and then we use the top as a fill port. And because it's fully see-through, we're going to have lots of UV lighting in there. This thing's going to glow so nicely when it's on. But I think I got everything cut out that I need to on the shell, to where I can now go back and just kind of finish cleaning up some of these edges around here, as well as cutting out some of the grill that goes in between our radiator and fan. And the metal frame is the last thing. We still want to cut out most likely right about here. I think I still want to plan that, especially if we're going bigger tubing. Definitely need this spot. That case screw piece there may still be in the way, down there in the corner. It's kind of a weird angle, but we can probably figure that out pretty easily. And then, like I said, the last thing, I'm just going to drill a little hole here so we could put a switch there for our temperature display. Now you may be wondering, on the Halo 5 Xbox, we actually used this fan and this reservoir. That system wasn't meant to be on its side, although it probably could have. It still had the reservoir next to the pump if you had it tilted this way. This one's still going to be able to go horizontal, upright. However, with this setup, yes, it will have to be horizontal to fill it up, but once you have it full enough, you can tilt it sideways, and you'll be able to see that it's still going to feed the pump directly, and the water line is going to be still above these holes right here, so it's not really going to affect that at all. But when you fill it, it will need to be horizontal. Now I have the fan and radiator mounted on there. We still got to cut out some of the grill in the center. I got those trimmed, that little spot the fan was touching, and the one on this side, so we have more room for that tube that's got to leave that direction. There we go. And this one more time. Right there, going right into the pump. Now the only issue I see popping up is that the exit of the pump is right where this is going to be. However, there is going to be a piece in between the reservoir and pump, obviously, so the pump will be moved back about this far, and I think that's going to solve that one issue. Other than that, I think we're all set. I mentioned the pipe coming out the front disk drive hole. That's going to be this 90 coming out of the radiator straight this way. Just come out, we'll have an elbow here and a piece of tubing, and we'll already have a tube coming out this way with another elbow. So when this gets set on top, this will be sticking out. We just clip that tube together. And then the one coming out the other side of the radiator, just like the other one, will have a tube that can stick all the way out of the hole we drill here. So as this sets on, you just have to make sure that tube's fed through the hole in the cage here. That's on. Clip this one together, clip that tube to the flow meter that'll be on top, and then this tube coming out of here. Like I said, we set this on, then we'll have to put the fitting on this one, and it'll connect right here. I think we got a good amount of stuff done today. I'm going to go back and finish, like I said, cleaning up these here, as well as getting rid of some of the bracing on the back. Some of them go right up to the window. You can see like this one here. We need to make sure it's all smooth, just a little bit around the window, so we have a nice flat surface for the plexi to lay on. The same thing with that piece that we took out here. It's got a brace on the back that has to be totally flat so it can sit on the window nice and centered, and then I can put some anodized blue on the metal frame. And once that's set, we'll revisit this, get some windows installed, get the tubing plugged together. It is time for another round of part orders. We now need to actually get all of the fittings, tubing, and stuff that we need. I'll probably just try and source some UV blue tubing. They have some cool clear tubing that reacts blue under UV light, and just little things, LEDs, some mounting hardware, things like that. So that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to not like, comment, or subscribe. Check out the membership link in the description. I have not started the next giveaway build yet, but I do have pretty much a full plan on that one. Shouldn't take too long. I'll have kind of a build plan video up for the membership. And actually, the main thing I kind of need for that one, I'm also going to order from the same place. I need some of the parts from here. And once that fan comes in, I can cut the shell for that and start painting it. But once I finish trimming this stuff, I should get the last part today, some of the fittings for the water-cooled Fat 360, the Beta NXC, and we can hopefully add water in this today. And by today, I mean you'll see the video a little bit later. And finally, before I do dive into the green Eclipse Fast and Furious build, this one also needs to get finished up, but I think that's not till this weekend that I get the Ring of Light board, and I think other than that, besides changing a couple other things, I also get that white paint marker to do the back side. I need to get this one done by the 16th so that it's ready for sale on the 20th anniversary of Need for Speed Most Wanted. And I think I'm just waiting on a couple decals for this one. I still have to adjust that top ghost case piece on the DVD drive. It all works, it's just still rubbing a little bit. And what else? Oh, I had to order a few more just regular OEM hard drives because I am short on mounting hardware. I mean, I'm pretty much out of hard drive shells altogether, but for some reason the button mechanism that releases, I'm like one short with the ones I do have, so I ordered a group of those so that we have more hard drives to build stuff. To get some controllers back that I honestly totally forgot about as well. They should have gotten thumbstick replacements. They do feel decent. This one I think is still a problem, unfortunately. The LEDs just don't work. It does seem to still connect, but the thumbstick is still kind of weird. I forgot I even sent this one out. It has some red parts on it, has the bullet buttons. But this one's all good to go. Really nice thumbsticks. All the buttons are good. It's got some red LEDs in it. This one here has some blue and red LEDs. This one's also nice and good. However, the blue LEDs don't seem to work super great, so it's just kind of red across. But you can see the blue, so it's red, blue, red, blue. And finally, I have this one here, which is probably the best one. This one feels great, and it's got some yellow LEDs, which are really just orange. So, which is great, because I only had a couple wired controllers left. I'm glad I got a few more to work with. Okay, I delayed enough. My wrist is feeling better. Time to do a bunch more sanding. See you guys in the next video.